The bar door groaned against the winter wind, a sound nobody noticed until they saw who walked in. Not a cop. Not a drunk. A little boy, 7 years old, shoes untied, coat too thin for the cold. His hands shook as he gripped the edge of the doorframe, eyes darting across a room thick with smoke and danger. Cigarettes froze halfway to lips. Beer mugs stopped midair. Even the jukebox seemed to hold its breath. The boy's lip was split, his cheek bruised purple and yellow. He swallowed hard, voice trembling, too soft for a place built on violence. "Please," his throat caught. "Please stop my stepdad." The silence deepened. Men who'd brawled in parking lots, men with knives in their boots and scars like battle maps, stared at a child begging them to fight a war he couldn't win. A single neon light buzzed above, throwing shadows across his face. He looked impossibly small under its glow, too small to carry the weight of those words. The roughest outlaw in the corner ground his cigarette into the table, eyes narrowing. Someone muttered, "Kid, you don't know who you're asking," but the boy only nodded, voice breaking as he whispered again, "He's going to kill her tonight." And in that moment, 15 hardened men realized this wasn't just another night in a biker bar. It was the night a child's whisper would test what kind of men they really were. His name was Tyler, just 7 years old, though his eyes looked older, eyes that had seen more violence than most men would face in a lifetime. Home was supposed to be safe. For Tyler, it was a battlefield. The walls of their trailer rattled not with wind, but with shouting, the smash of bottles, the dull thud of fists meeting flesh. His stepdad drank until words slurred into rage. Every night his mother became the shield, and when her body could no longer take it, the blows fell on Tyler. Neighbors heard. Police came. But always the same ending. The officer's pen scratching domestic disturbance and the excuse and not enough evidence. Then the squad car taillights faded, leaving Tyler and his mother alone in the silence, waiting for the next storm. But tonight it wasn't silence that followed. Tonight, his stepdad snarled through whiskey-stained breath that someone would die before sunrise. Tyler knew it wasn't an empty threat, so he ran. Out the door, into the freezing night, his small legs pumping across cracked sidewalks, lungs burning, ribs aching with each step. He ran past houses with warm lights, past people who turned away, past every adult who should have helped but never did. And finally, he saw it. Neon buzzing above a bar. Bikes lined up like iron beasts sleeping in the dark, a place mothers warned their kids about. Tyler didn't want killers. He wanted guardians. Monsters, maybe, but monsters strong enough to fight his nightmare. That's why his tiny hands pushed open the door. The bar stayed frozen in silence. Smoke curled from half-lit cigarettes. Bottles of beer sweated on wooden tables. Every eye locked on the boy. One biker, Tank, a mountain of a man with scars etched into his arms, snarled first. "Kid's stepdad wants to play tough? We'll put him 6 feet under." Another shook his head. Razor, his knuckles tattooed black, leaned forward. "You kill him. We're no better than the monster this boy is running from." "That's not justice. That's revenge." The argument rippled through the room. Voices rose. Fists clenched. The outlaws men feared in every town were suddenly at war with themselves. At the center, Richard, their president, moved slowly. He crouched until his eyes met Tyler's. His voice, usually gravel and steel, softened. "You don't need killers, son," he said. "You need guardians." Tyler's lip quivered. For the first time that night, he let out a shaky breath, like someone had finally understood. The room fell quiet again. Every biker stared at Richard, waiting. The decision weighed heavy. They could turn away, stay the monsters the world believed them to be, or they could cross a line no patch had ever required. A line that would make them protectors. "Doc." The biker medic pushed through the crowd and knelt beside Tyler. His rough hands, once steady in ambulances, now scarred from years on the road, pressed gently against the boy's ribs. Tyler winced, a cry slipping through clenched teeth. "Broken ribs," Doc muttered. His face darkened. "Could be internal bleeding." The bar erupted. Curses, fists slamming on tables, chairs screeching across the floor. Every man in that room carried violence in his veins, but now, for the first time, it boiled not for themselves, but for a child. Tank stormed toward the door. "Enough talking. Let's end this." "Wait," Richard growled. But before more could be said, the distant wail of sirens sliced through the night. Everyone froze. Sirens meant cops, and cops meant trouble for men with records. But the sound wasn't stopping. It was racing past, heading toward the trailer park. Richard's phone buzzed. He answered, listened, and his face turned to stone. "Gunshots reported," he said flatly. Tyler's knees buckled. His voice cracked into a scream. "He's killing my mom." The boy collapsed to the floor. Richard's chair scraped loud against the wood. His command was sharp, final. "Everyone rides now." Engines thundered to life. Engines roared like thunder rolling across the dark horizon. 15 bikes tore through red lights, weaving past traffic as if the night itself parted for them. Headlights cut through the smoke of the trailer park as they arrived in formation, an army of chrome and leather. The scene was chaos.
Blue and red strobes bounced off dented trailers and broken fences.
Patrol cars boxed the lot. Officers shouted orders over radios crackling with panic. Richard led the charge, Tyler clinging to his vest as the bikes screeched to a halt. The boy's eyes darted wildly until they locked on a figure near the flashing lights. His mother, bloodied, her blouse torn, sat trembling on the steps of their trailer. A paramedic crouched beside her. She was alive. Relief washed over Tyler, but it vanished just as quickly when his gaze shifted. His stepdad, handcuffed, bleeding from a bullet wound in his shoulder. He fought against 2 officers dragging him toward an ambulance, his face twisted with drunken fury. Even shackled, he spat threats, his voice raw. "This ain't over. I'll finish it. I'll finish her." The bikers bristled. Snake's hand went for his knife. Tank's fists clenched like sledgehammers ready to fall. The only thing stopping them was Richard's outstretched arm. For tonight, the law had him. But tomorrow? Tomorrow he might walk free, and every man there knew. If the system failed again, blood would spill. The flashing lights faded into uneasy silence. Tyler's mother, still trembling, was loaded into an ambulance for further checks. Just when relief seemed within reach, another car rolled up. A plain white sedan with the seal of Child Protective Services stamped faintly on the door. A woman in a stiff gray suit stepped out, clipboard tucked tight under her arm. Her voice was clipped, professional, cold. "This child is being placed in foster care immediately." Tyler's head snapped up. "No!" he screamed, clinging to his mother's blood-stained sleeve. His small hands shook as he fought against strangers pulling him away. "I'm not leaving her. Don't take me." The social worker didn't flinch. "Sir," she addressed Richard, "step aside or face obstruction charges." Richard's jaw locked. He moved forward until he towered over her, his shadow stretching across her clipboard. "Back off." The officer beside her reached for his gun. Instantly, 15 bikers shifted in unison, forming a wall of leather and steel around the boy. Snake's knife glinted in the flashing red lights. Tank's boots dug into the gravel like he was ready to charge. The air snapped tight, one heartbeat away from an explosion. Police hands hovered over holsters. Outlaws tightened their fists, one wrong word, one wrong move, and the trailer park would turn into a battlefield. In that deadly stillness, everyone realized the truth. Tonight wasn't just about one boy. It was about who got to decide what justice looked like. The air was about to snap. Officers with hands on holsters. Bikers braced for war. Tyler clinging to his mother's sleeve as if letting go meant losing her forever. Then his voice, fragile but firm, broke through the chaos. "Wait." Every head turned. From the pocket of his torn hoodie, he pulled out an old phone. Its screen cracked, edges chipped, the kind of device most adults would have thrown away long ago. His hands trembled as he held it out, but his eyes, wet and burning, stayed locked on Richard. "My real dad gave me this before he died," Tyler whispered. He said, "Record when bad things happen." With a shaky thumb, he pressed play. The screen lit up with horror. A drunken man, his stepdad, staggering in the kitchen, screaming, fists flying. Tyler's mom hit the floor. Tyler's own cries filled the background, shrill, helpless. A date stamp glowed in the corner. 6 months ago, he swiped again. Another clip. Then another. 17 videos in total. Bruises, broken bottles, screams in the night. Abuse documented over half a year. The bar of justice shifted right there in the gravel. Officers who once shrugged, "Not enough evidence," now stood speechless. The social worker's hand went limp at her side. Even the bikers, hardened men who feared nothing, looked away, jaws clenched tight. The prosecutor on scene whispered what everyone already knew. This Changes everything. The courtroom of the street shifted. No more excuses, no more not enough evidence. Within hours, the videos were secured as official evidence. Tyler's stepdad was charged with over 30 counts of child abuse and domestic violence. His bail? $500,000, an impossible sum. For the first time, he wasn't walking out the next morning. Relief washed over Tyler's mother, but the bikers knew something darker was coming. Monsters don't vanish overnight. They send shadows in their place, and shadows arrived fast. 2 nights later, at the shabby roadside motel where Tyler and his mom had been moved for safety, engines purred low in the parking lot. Not Harley engines, but beat-up trucks. Out stepped 3 men, the stepdad's brothers. Meth dealers, each armed, faces twisted with fury. Their plan was simple: finish what their blood couldn't. But waiting in the dark were 15 silhouettes. Leather vests, glinting faintly under the buzzing motel light. The brothers froze. The bikers didn't reach for guns. They didn't need to. Snake flipped his knife open slow, the metallic click echoing in the silence. Tank cracked his knuckles like thunder. Richard stepped forward, his voice low and calm. You've got one chance. Leave this town, tonight. No shots fired. No bodies dropped. But by dawn, the brothers were gone, and no one in that town ever saw them again. The danger had passed, but the scars of fear still lingered. Tyler's mother was released from questioning, shaky but free. She had no money, no home to return to, no safe place to hide. The bikers didn't ask. They acted. Within minutes, a hat was passed around the bar. Wallets opened. Crumpled bills, 20s, 50s. $500 gathered in less time than it takes to light a cigarette. Enough for rent, food, and a new start. The veteran neighbor, the one who had fired the shot that saved Tyler's mother, was shaking when Richard found him outside. They'll lock me up, the old man muttered. Doesn't matter that I saved her. They'll say I went too far. Richard shoved a business card into his hand. Tell the lawyer the banditos are paying. The veteran stared, stunned. For the first time in years, someone had his back. As for Tyler, he no longer stood alone. 15 leather-clad guardians surrounded him now, an army bound not by law but by loyalty. Neighbors who once crossed the street to avoid these men now peeked from behind curtains, realizing that outlaws had become protectors. Tyler, who had walked into a biker bar with nothing but bruises and desperation, walked out shielded by something stronger than fear. He walked out with family. Years passed. Tyler grew taller, his bruises faded, but the memories never left. What did remain was the old battered phone. Its screen was cracked, its battery swollen, but he never threw it away. When people asked why, his answer was simple. It didn't just record abuse. It recorded the moment I stopped being alone. That phone, the one that turned evidence into justice, now hangs framed on the wall of the Iron Horse Bar. Mounted between worn leather vests and flags carried through decades of outlaw wars, it is the most sacred relic in the room. Every Thursday night when the club gathers, someone always points to it, and the room falls quiet. For Tyler, the bikers were never just men in leather. They were the shield between him and the nightmare, and as he became a man himself with children of his own, he brought them often to that same bar. His kids never saw criminals. They saw heroes with roaring engines and scarred hands who once chose to protect a child instead of destroy a monster. The world still called them outlaws. Tyler called them uncles, family stitched not by blood but by choice. And the night his whisper changed 15 feared men into guardian angels was never forgotten. It was remembered in chrome, in leather, and in the silence that followed the sound of a child asking for help. Sometimes, the world's most dangerous men become the safest to run to. Sometimes family isn't born, it's chosen. A 7-year-old boy walked into a biker bar begging strangers for help. He didn't find killers, he found protectors, men who carried scars of their own, but who chose for one night to use their violence not to destroy but to defend. The system had failed him. The neighbors had turned away, but 15 outlaws answered his whisper. They stood like a wall between him and the darkness, and they never stepped back. That night proved something powerful. That compassion doesn't always wear a badge, and justice doesn't always come from a courtroom. Sometimes it roars down the street on 2 wheels, carrying loyalty, honor, and the promise that no child should ever fight alone. If you believe kindness can rise from the unlikeliest places, If you believe in justice that rides with leather and steel, subscribe, share this story, and remind the world. Protectors come in all forms.